You cannot control logging 100%. It's like poaching.
They may come against them and maybe they kill them or they endanger them.
There is a Fuso loading timber as I speak.
It is new to me. I'm going to investigate.
Officers here have seen something, so...
We have not seen vigilance.
The encroachers are very smart.
That
That's the team.
We are reporting to you to do something about it.
If you ring a forest supervisor at night, the man has a motorcycle and is alone.
On top, it's a pristine wilderness like no other. But inside, it's bleeding, and these are some of the wounds of a huge indigenous tree cut down just a few hours ago in Itwara Central Forest Reserve. This beautiful wilderness has fallen prey to the hands of an environmental catastrophe. Illegal logging has spread out to the central forest of Chenjojo, leading to a timber pillaging frenzy that goes on day and night due to the forest's rare natural tree species that have spent over 100 years. A single tree that falls here provides over 600 pieces of timber, with one piece of timber costing 40,000 shillings, which is about 24 million shillings once sold on the black market. In Chenjojo district, the wave of illegal loggers are earning huge sums of money that is now used to corrupt the community, hence accelerating the destruction of the only remaining green central forest reserves. As the reserves of Itwara, Muhanji and Maturi continues shrinking to the illegal timber loggers and charcoal burners, NBS investigates the cartel of loggers who are suffocating the forest to cause an environmental catastrophe. This is Charusuzi village, located over 30 kilometers in the outskirts of Chenjojo town and only about 10 kilometers away from the Itwara Central Forest Reserve. The village is presumed to be a hub for loggers. Here, we meet Kabelinde Joseph, a professional teacher whose domain is to monitor and protect Itwara Forest. During our interface about the state of the forest in the area, he receives a telephone call from his fellow vigilantes on how illegal timber logging was on course. On reaching the forest, we find that the National Forest Authority has intercepted some of the loggers and impounded their timber. The officials of NFA present rejected any form of filming.
You can enter in the forest as you want, but for the vehicle we leave, you go and click it on the station that this is impounded. That is the deal, I think. Not here. I agree. Because here it will look in a different way. Okay.
I decide to film the proceedings secretly since the process of blocking me from filming was suspicious, but we shall later find out why. As the officials claim to have impounded all the timber a few kilometers inside the forest, their words would betray the obvious. Timber was still in abundance, awaiting the energetic young loggers to come back and pick what belongs to them. However, the pieces of timber littered in the forest are branded with names where our monitor Joseph says the names on these timber mean either they are the bosses or the loggers. But how do these loggers come into play? We talk to an anonymous source who dines with the loggers, who we shall call Irene. Irene says the loggers are brought into the village by bosses who normally bribe local council chairpersons with 10,000 shillings to give them residential identification cards.
Boss babo bakubaleta mbahereza iraka chairman umuhendo gw'abantu abayaleta hatu bakumakumahereza umuhendo gw'abantu abayaleta nenjo zakuba abapangisize chairman natwara ubujunanizibwa kujayo kubayijuza mu kitabu eky'elusiwa.
With serious accusation on the village chairperson of alleged insurance of residential identification cards to the loggers, I put it to Isaura Sam, the Charusuzi LOC1 chairperson.
Abakusalemba amane gabo gahingura yine kandi bagahiguru omukwija nkamununa nombetegereza hanyuma ngo sasa bemba first of all mutasokuja napangisa namara kupangisa na kuleka identity card nebashimana hekuruga.
But in the spirit of trying to end the vice, Isaura says his efforts are also frustrated by police and military who they say sideline with the loggers.
Nembazi kupakunya msala tuku na polisi yonka netina kuzukwata huko osio bakuzukwata go mulimo ngumu tokyo ngamana mengi mun hauko na ko sporting mbao no sangabano je uniform ya mai.
Still in Chalsuzi village for the second day, my patience to investigate more about the racket of loggers leads me to John, not real name, who has been doing the job for 18 years now. John accepts to talk to me because he is frustrated by one link that completes the racket of loggers, which he defines in their language as network. That link is the NFA sector manager for Potro, we come to understand as Wilbur Oyebe.
Sector manager. Ako ni jahan na kulagana na abantu na baya usente mara kwa usente na wasende kama forest mbasalamba ulikweza tu milioni 3 kwa na mkora forestio okumara kumuinforminga na ganyendezo zaba informa banga benda kasente nazo nemba ngatano gamoha okotagatungira ateze mbato kuzipakira kantu karagano kweza atana tagambaa tikuja kusoboka tujike bizabuza girata.
John adds that the sector manager sidelines with other dealers in the business and he uses security to help aid the timber to the black market.
Aina mstonchi abantu avenga basatu abota sokwata no muhana ramna za defending nzigenda na kusoboziwe ina security ina mahe ina polisi ezo paka ziteka kutambula.
Our efforts to talk to Wilbur Oyebe, the NFA sector manager for Potro, accused by the loggers, was in vain, as they are not authorized to talk to the media, though managed to speak to Mr. Tom Okello, the executive director NFA. Mr. Okello says the sector manager's name is only being used.
Possibly, there could be some people who may be misusing the name of the sector manager. Because if somebody has connived with someone, why do you go again and arrest the person? So that one is something which it is new to me. I'm going to investigate. But the issue of involvement of staff in illegal activities, this is something which for me I've never denied. Because personally I've caught some and dismissed them.
But to Joseph Kabelinde, he says his efforts have always gone to waste, but he would only receive death threats. That explains the racket in Chalsuzi village, though it's different in Nyaruzigati village where part of Muhanji Central Forest Reserve is located. Nyaruzigati Trading Center, which is 9 kilometers away from Muhanji Forest Reserve, is where a section of young energetic men are trained in illegal logging. Inside Muhanji Forest, trees are cut into logs, others burning with plumes of smoke, and beds of charcoal production set up as well. The outcome of such practice is worrying, according to Anthony Alinaitwe, who monitors this part of the forest.
Kurugabatanga kuchitahira no kuchitema tuchabona ganjura kuno nejane kutuma nsebi yokurya enjura tekwisha. Siturera kirize munonga turukubi munonga.
But outside the forest lies gardens of the local community. A close look at them lies piles of illegal timber hidden in various corners. So, who owns this timber? The locals here who claim to be managing the gardens on behalf of Awan Amos are hesitant to reveal the owner, saying their role is to dig and mind their own business despite seeing timber being hidden in the garden.
Zisha wahure mpanguri kugambira hariya iwuri muri mugwawe hano uratefuka ya boss wawe uze kuranga iyo mpango no rukotera kandi babinkwasira bamukwata ibyo nibyo tibiri byanje.
The case of this illegal timber is later reported to Nyaruzigati police post, where we find out a new revelation. A police officer who preferred anonymity says they have tried to end the vice, but their hands are tied.
Who is the boss of patrolmen? And who is supervising the supervisor? The sector manager. So those ones, that's the chief. They arrested some. They brought them here and charged them. Now instead of taking them to court, they came and took them that we are taking them. We have a meeting somewhere. We shall decide from somewhere.
On day 2 of our investigation in the same village, our cameras spot a truck loading timber from one of the locals' compound. Here, NFA is tipped off about the illegal actions.
There is a group of people loading timber, and we are sure it is from Mohangi Forest. So, Mohangi Cassava. There is a Fuso loading timber as I speak.
By the time NFA reached the scene, the loggers through their network had been notified and took off. Minutes later, we are tipped off of another location where loggers had taken to hide the timber.
We are trying to follow them, so the officers here have seen something, so we're trying to go ahead and find out where is this timber, because the truck has been loading timber, and when Asante is gone this side, and we're following the trucks here.
On arrival at the scene, the loggers had already run away. Their truck left behind with the illegal timber offloaded under a jackfruit tree. Here, the locals identify the owner of the truck, who also happens to be the owner of the timber, as Rukundo Yusuf. Lukundo is allegedly one of the village tycoons who deals in timber and also reported to be the village LOC1 chairman. Upon reaching the scene, the timber dealer denounces having harvested the timber from the Central Forest Reserve. The National Forest Authority officers charged with the responsibility of protecting the resource are faced with transport challenges.
Look for means to throw the timber to the station.
And who pays?
And when the headquarter picks, they will pick and take.
So who pays when you pick from here?
Nobody pays. It is me to struggle around.
Really?
Yes. So when you hear that we are also possibly struggling to get out, you know we have challenges.
These are things which are emergencies. You don't plan for it. It is like COVID. Now, when timber is there, are you going to first make a requisition to Kampala that I'm requesting for money? I've had people in the forest. You process for me 500,000 for hiring a lorry to pick the timber. No. Or send for me a lorry from Kampala. No. You must first take action and then we reorganize ourselves.
Later, we revisited the scene where we had spotted a truck that was loading illegal timber to establish ownership. Here we are told the timber also belongs to Rukundo Yusuf. The community here seems to be swallowed up by the wave of fear. They describe the loggers' network as a dangerous group, which explains why it's hard for them to reveal information about loggers.
They fear in case if they give information, those friends of theirs or their relatives, they may come against them and maybe they kill them or they endanger them.
With Mohangi Forest also encroached on by the locals to carry out agriculture, the NFA Executive Director Tom Okello says that the supervisors here are not doing their work and thus risk disciplinary action.
They had areas which were earmarked for collaborative forest management, but then they expanded. So we are wondering, when they were expanding, where was this man?
For the 4 days spent investigating the racket of loggers, illegal timber was impounded twice. But on reaching the NFA offices in Kagora in Chenjojo district, no illegal timber was seen at the premises. So, where does the impounded timber go?
So we bring this timber, we lot them, and we do a public auction. And the money goes to the consolidated fund. That goes to the government.
The racket of loggers does not end with the Central Forest Reserves of Itwara and Maturi, but also spreads to the already depleted Maturi Forest Reserve. Christopher Businje, the head natural resource joint effort to save the environment for Potro, attributes the continued illegal logging to laxity by the concerned government sectors.
We have not seen vigilance on the part of the mandated authority. The National Forest Authority and the local government, for example, here in Chenjojo, they are not coordinating very well.
The encroachers in all these forest reserves and all the other protected areas also are very smart, but we are trying to outsmart them.
As the community is being subdued by some of the agents of the state who are accused of conniving with the loggers, the locals have now decided to turn a deaf ear to the practice which they say was rampant during the lockdown. Environmental activists are, however, demanding for policy change to curb the vice.
Our appeal to government of Uganda and particularly the Ministry of Water and Environment is to act on the ongoing rampant degradation. For example, Muhangi forest alone is nearly disappearing.
Obviously, you need a monitoring system, monitoring tools that enable you to discover when illegalities are taking place. So that's also quite crucial to be able to enforce what is a very, very nice legislation on paper in most cases.
We want to strengthen the law so that when you go in, the law catches up with you and you don't go back. Right now, the law is weak. You can be fined 10 currency unit. And you know a currency unit is 25,000, which is too small, 200,000, 250,000. That is very small. A logger will pay and go back and log.
Amidst the escalating depletion of the forest cover, some locals have embarked on restoring the forest reserve. The three central forest reserves of Itwara, Muhangi and Maturi are the last remaining of what used to be a stronghold of elephants in Chenjojo district, which are now day by day shrinking due to increasing logging activities. Cuthbert Chigozi, NBS, Love at 9.